Good morning. I declare that we have a quorum and I call to order the meeting. In the legislative session 2025, as at the last meeting, we have approved 11 projects with a total provision of $55.195 billion. On the agenda today, there are two items for discussion. Both are new funding proposals from the administration. The two funding proposals involve a total amount of $1.2478 billion. If all the funding proposals are approved by members, then we will have approved 13 projects. The total provision will be $56.4383 billion. Taking away $27.3407 billion of block allocation for land acquisition and computerization program, the total works project will cost $29.0976 billion. I would like to remind members if there is any direct or indirect pecuniary interest in relation to the items under discussion, please disclose the nature of such interest before you speak in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure. And may I also draw attention to Rule 84 of the Rules of Procedure on the voting provision in relation where there is direct pecuniary interest. Item 1. PWSC 2025-26-1, that's the document number, and this about project 48 QW Revitalisation Scheme, revitalization of Fong Study Hall into Fong Study Hall Experiential Learning Center, and project 50 QW Revitalisation Scheme, revitalization of Homi Villa into Center of National History Education, Youyou Villa. The members are invited to recommend the upgrading of the two projects to Category A at an estimated cost of $24.8 million and $70.2 million in money of the day prices, respectively. The panel on development was consulted on the two projects at its meeting on the 25th of June 2024. The key deliberations of the panel was emailed to members for your reference on the 14th of April 2025. Now, we have, I won't introduce all the officials attending for the item. I'll read out the list of members who wish to speak. Mr. Frankie Ang, Dr. Low Wai Kok, Professor Lau Chi Pang, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Lam Chen Sing, Ms. Nixie Lam, Ms. Chen Yut Ming, Mr. Ben Chen, Mr. Lau Kwok Fun, Mr. Chen Xiu Hong, Mr. Chu Kwok Keung, and Mr. Stanley Ng. 4 minutes each for questions and answers. First, Mr. Frankie Ang. Yes, I'll have 3 questions. First, how did you select the two operators? And that's the first question. Second question, how are the operators going to promote these historic buildings to the public? I'm particularly concerned about the Mawan project because it's not really very accessible. Are there KPIs for the two organizations? Say how the number of visitors each year and how they're going to use the buildings and so on. I welcome the government officials who will take the questions, please. Mr. Leung, Commissioner. Thank you. The first question, why did we select the two organizations to operate the two projects? First, the Fong Yuen Study Hall Experiential Learning Center. The organization is the Youth Brigade. It has over 14,000 members. Since 2009, it's been serving different age groups, youth groups, children groups, schools, churches, social welfare organizations, businesses and families. They provide recreation and leisure services as well as training services. Each year they serve over 30,000 people. And then the other there is the National History Education Youyou Villa. The organization is involved in promoting Chinese culture to teachers and students. The two proposals are put forward by the two organizations. They have included the target number of visitors for Fong Yuen. In the first 3 years, there will be 80,000 visitors. And then for Homi Villa, in the first 3 years, 66,000 visitors. Yes, for the Ma Wan side, it's a little unique, but we are confident because the Youth Brigade is rooted in Ma Wan. It has over a decade of history serving the area. And then for the villages there, rural communities, schools, they have strong connections to them. So that's why we are confident that they will be able to operate this project well. Any follow-up? If they don't achieve the target of 80,000 or 66,000 visitors or persons they serve, then will there be any follow action on the part of the administration? Commissioner? Well, we will continue to monitor the provision of service. In the lease agreement we sign with these organizations usually is for a term of 3 years, and that's not the end after we have assigned the lease. Rather, we will keep monitoring the service of the operations. We want to make sure that they comply with all the they deliver their pledges, and then we'll also watch their financial position to make sure they have sound financial position, and then we'll make sure that they will continue to provide service. And if we identify any problems, we will require them to rectify the situation. And if there are serious mistakes or they keep making mistakes after repeated advice, then at the end of the 3 years, we could always retender the project. Thank you. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok. Chairman, I support the two revitalization projects in principle. That is the Homi Villa and the Fong Yuen Study Hall. Both are good projects. The Fong Yuen Study Hall is really a small site, 280 square meters in a site area, floor area 140 square meters. It's just slightly bigger than a village house. Now, are there adjoining land sites? Even if it's a government slope, can that be included in the project so we could do a bit more? Now, of course, there's indoor space and there's a bit of outdoor space, but can we increase the indoor space? Is it possible? Because I don't know what the environment's like nearby. So can you explain whether it's feasible to increase the indoor space? Second question. What is the transport arrangement? Ma Wan is not accessible by cars. So, yes, this is a small facility. But then if the usage rate is too low, it's not desirable. Homi Villa is of a larger scale, and I think it's right to use it for national history education. So I very much support the project. Commissioner, thank you. First question, is it possible to expand the area in Fong Yuen Study Hall? I've been to the site. There are many residential developments nearby. If you want to include adjoining sites, that may be rather complicated. It's true it is a small site, and that's why with the funding provision, we hope to build a new ancillary block. There will be a new staircase, so students and other users can sit on the staircase, and they can then watch activities being held on the ground floor, and that will help in some way to increase the usable space, because this is a historic building, so it will be very complicated to expand the building. But then we have come up with this proposal to increase usable space. Second question, transportation. There are 5 bus routes serving Ma Wan that links to CNHE, Quarry, Fong, Chunwan, Kowloon MTR Station, CNHE Station. There's also ferry service to Central. And then visitors could also use urban taxis to reach Ma Wan. As I mentioned, this organization, that's the Boys Brigade, is deeply rooted in Ma Wan. It's been serving Ma Wan for a long time, so many of the visitors will probably be Ma Wan residents. I think you didn't get my question. I'm not saying that you use adjoining sites for expansion. I don't know what the topography is like. Well, even if it's a slope, maybe there could be some sort of walkway or boardwalk, and people or visitors would have more space to take a stroll outside the study hall. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should expand the building into other parts. I don't think you've answered my question. So maybe you could provide information afterwards if you can't answer my questions now. But of course, if you can answer my question now, I'd like to hear your answer. Maybe Mr. Low can supplement. Thank you. There are site constraints. The area is surrounded by village houses, and there are actually constraints even on the site. And now we have come up with this way to increase space outside. And Ma Wan is not so accessible, but then the commissioner just explained there are various bus routes serving Ma Wan. But the Boys Brigade has been around in Ma Wan for a long time, so there are other spaces that they can use. For example, the Noah's Ark. Now, I think you're still not answering my question. Now, on the plan, I can't see what's to the south of the site. I don't know. I don't think those village spaces, village houses. But say if it's a green belt, can you make use of that for, say, building a walkway or boardwalk? Any supplement to the south? Those slopes to the south of the site, the slopes, and there are plenty of trees. Well, that's exactly perfect. So there are trees, so you can build a boardwalk. And so there's a little bit of space outside the Fong Yuen study hall, and people can take a stroll there. Well, yes, it can be done. Well, in that case, please provide further paper on whether it could be included in your funding proposal and how you're going to do it. Perhaps you could provide more information on the topography, and if there are to be other facilities, how challenging it will be to include these facilities, so members know that you have tried your best. Or actually, you could create a bit more space, so there is more room for movement. Yes, it's a small site, but then there's a slope at the back, and there are trees, so you can include that into the site. It could be a place for people to take a stroll. Perhaps you can provide information after the meeting. Professor Lau.
Thank you. I want to make declarations first. I was the former chairman of the Advisory Committee on Built Heritage Conservation, and this project was approved during my tenure at the committee. I also declare that I am a member of an academic committee of the National History Education Center, but I don't play any role in the project in the capacity of the member. I want to know that in the future, what will be the government's role in these two projects? This is a revitalizing historic buildings through partnership scheme. So how will the government act as a partner with the operating organizations? Also, the benefits are listed out here. For Homi Villa, you focus on the idea of national history, education. And there are also buses going to Homi Villa. Well, apart from teaching people about our national history, will this center be used as a place for exchanges between Chinese and Western culture? Thank you. For your first question, we'll act as a partner with the operating organizations. We'll provide a lot of support to them. This includes financial support. We'll provide a one-off subsidy with a cap of $5 million. This includes the losses they may suffer for the first 2 years. Also, the Antiquities Monument Office under the Development Bureau will also provide technical support on the building. On the relationship between Parsis and Mr. Ratunji. Mr. Ratunji contributed a lot to Hong Kong. Near Shamchang, he opened a beer factory, and also during World War II, he took part in the War of Resistance against Japanese. He provided a lot of support to Chinese people, and he also helped raise funds for Chinese people during the war, and he was regarded by the Japanese government as someone who was a rebel, and that's why he was detained by the Japanese government. Also, he donated a lot of money for people who suffered from tuberculosis as well as heart disease. Perhaps I'll ask the National History Education Center to supplement. Dr. Yao Kwok Kong, please. I thank member for the questions. Homi Villa will be revitalized into Youyou Villa. I thank member for the inspirations. You may have visited Homi Villa before. It is a promontory. It is of high value because it is at a strategic location overlooking the Ma Wan Channel. Since the Song Dynasty, it's been a strategic location linking up Guangzhou and Quanzhou, and there were many important historic events took place there. For one Song Dynasty emperor, he developed his base around Kowloon City. And from Chunwan to Qinwan, it was an important location for that emperor. You can imagine if you're right in front of Homi Villa, you'll be able to experience the important history. And this showcases how we're going to turn the place into a location for exchanges between Chinese and Western culture. Well, I believe citizens who are going to visit the site will learn more about the history. In the interest of time, perhaps we can't dig deep into the history here. Well, I understand that you can do more preparation so that future visitors can learn more about the history. Mr. Andrew Lam. Well, because Taihan Fire Dragon Dance was mentioned, so I have to declare interest that I was the Vice Director of the Taihan Fire Dragon Dance Center. I have the following questions. You allocated a lot of funding to the scheme. I want to know how much money is left. Also, how many historic buildings are covered under the scheme? Secondly, on Fong Yuen Study Hall. Well, you're going to spend some $20 million. And for the previous projects, you had to spare money on repair and maintenance. Like Hopa mentioned, you also spent money to prevent water leakage. So how much money are you going to spend on the maintenance? Thank you for the questions. The member asked about the scheme. The scheme was rolled out in 2008. Over the past decade or so, we reserved about $3.2 billion for the scheme. Currently, the total commitment for capital works is about $2.9 billion. For Phase 1 to Phase 5, it covers 14 projects that are in different districts. And they are under operation now, and these projects have the recognition around the world. 5 of them got an award from UNESCO for the Blue House Cluster. It also won Excellence Awards, and it was the highest awards among all the awards. For the second question, I'll ask our engineer to reply. On the maintenance cost for Fong Yuen Study Hall, I don't have the exact figure here. The Development Bureau is now running Fong Yuen Study Hall, and we take care of the utilities work as well as the air conditioning service. And we always have to ask our staff to carry out the repair and maintenance. After revitalization, we should need less repair and maintenance of large scale. Well, can you provide supplementary information about this after the meeting? Yes, I'll look at how much money we have spent on running Fong Yuen Study Hall. Next, Mr. Lam Chun Sing. Thank you. On the Fong Yuen Study Hall in Manhua, some 10 years ago, revitalization projects were carried out, and back then $8 million were allocated to the revitalization. But the operator back then, because of various reasons, including a low visitor number, it didn't end well, but now some $25 million will be spent. This is 3 times higher compared to last time. Previously, we got about 3,000 visitors a year. Was it cost effective? Well, this is a small site that we are looking at. There will be a STEM workshop. Well, INT is the trend, and maybe that's why the organization thought that it would be easier for them to get the approval if there is a STEM workshop. However, I don't think there should be a STEM workshop for the sake of including INT elements in it. Is it really necessary to have this STEM workshop? Or would you rather make use of the courtyard to introduce a better experience for visitors, or will you also incorporate history of Ma Wan villages into your education package? Apart from the ancillary block as well as the staircase, I wonder if the other building works could be saved, such as the STEM workshop. Also, you said we're justified. For example, say the first 2 years the operating organization suffers losses, there would be extra allocation or funding for the organization with a cap of $5 million. Under what circumstances will you give the $5 million to the organization? For example, during COVID, because of a low visitor number, operation was hard. Or are there no fixed standards or criteria under which you will allocate the $5 million to the organization? I thank members for the questions. Previously, there was another operator for the Ma Wan project. The Boys Brigade, that is the current operating organization, has been providing services in Ma Wan since 2009, serving some 30,000 people every year. It is rooted in the local district. It has worked with different social welfare organizations, churches, and schools, and it has formed deep connections with these organizations. So we think it is an appropriate operator. Also, the Fong Yuen Study Hall, long time ago, it was a traditional teaching site. Against this backdrop, we hope that the new operating organization will roll out education-related activities and events. Apart from education, the organization will create synergy with other organizations in Ma Wan. For example, it will roll out different visiting schemes as well as docent tours. Now, on the $5 million extra funding, the government, together with the advisory committee, have looked at their proposal. I'll ask Mr. Low to tell you about the details. Thank you. When non-profit making organizations submit proposals to us, the advisory committee, together with different sectors of the community, will look at whether the proposal is justified. Within the government, there are auditing departments that help look at the proposals as well to see their financial plan. And it is only then that we will decide how much funding we will allocate to the organization. And after the commissioning of the project, we asked them for at least the first 2 years to submit audit reports to us to see whether they suffer any losses and whether they're able to meet their targets as set out in their original proposal. So we will keep looking at their financial situation and their operation. Well, members said that previously there was a revitalization scheme that did not end well. I believe you have learned the lesson as you approved their proposal. We don't want public monies to go to waste. Well, previously $8 million were spent. Now it goes up to about $25 million. So, yes, this is one of my questions. I also asked about whether it is necessary to have the STEM workshop. I hope that INT elements won't be included just for the sake of it. If the workshop is not necessary and if it is only used for some outreach programs, can we do away with the workshop? Well, I believe you have assessed the proposal. But please pay attention to what the member said. Now on the point about $8 million, please. Well, I thank member for the questions. We are asking for about $24 to $25 million now. Most of the money will be spent on the ancillary block. We learned from the previous lesson and we want to make good use of the space. And one of the ways to do so is to have the ancillary block as proposed by the organization. Also, this organization has been rooted in Ma Wan for many years, and we want the organization to help create synergy. I believe it will also help bring economic benefits to Ma Wan.
Next, Miss Nixie Lam. Thank you, Chair. I want to find out a bit more about the Homi Villa. It's in the constituency when I was a district councillor. I mentioned, I heard a figure of 60,000 visitors. Can you really achieve that target? Because it is rather remotely located. You can drive there, but if you want to take public transport, you will have to walk a distance. And then, you know, there are plenty of mosquitoes there, and the air conditioning is really cold. That's my impression of the place. So, how are you going to promote the villa to people? Because when we consider a project, we always consider the ideal situation, so we spend a lot on it. But when it's actually done, can it really achieve the target? Because there will be a different body in charge of the operation. So how do you have any plans to bring more visitors to the villa? Would there be any improvement to the transportation arrangement? And will you be doing more publicity? I think we can encourage local students to visit the villa. And what about visitors from outside Hong Kong? Will they learn about such information when they come to Hong Kong, and then they can choose whether to visit? It seems that in Hong Kong we're not doing so well in that respect. So that's all I'd like to know. Thank you. Commissioner, thank you. First about number of visitors. Now there are two types of visitors the villa wants to serve. That is kindergartens and primary schools and secondary schools, students and teachers. That's one group. There are over 1,000 kindergartens, 500 primary schools, and a few hundred and 500 secondary schools. So let's say each group is 50 teachers and students. That's how we count the target, work out the target on that basis. And then the Youyou Villa will also serve other groups such as elderly homes or different organizations that they could come and visit. On tourism promotion, we'll continue to work with the tourism commission and to promote all revitalized monuments in Hong Kong. The Deputy Chief Secretary is also leading a working group on promoting tourism everywhere, and that will include such revitalized historic monuments. Can you be more specific? You just tell us in general what you're doing. But, you know, for this particular project, do you have some ideas? Have you discussed that? Can you share that with us? Commissioner, thank you. we have planned for some Sham-chang Youyou Villa in-depth tour. The Homi Villa will be the hub, and then the Samcheng Ma 1 and Chima will be linked up, and then the people will trace ancient history. At the same time, there will be information on the industrial development after the war. Mr. Chen Yiming, I support conservation and revitalization. I have a number of comments. First, the sustainability of the projects. Well, the cost for the two projects will be about $100 million, and the two NGOs operating the two projects. So, will the NGOs shoulder the works cost, or will they just take care of repair and maintenance? Second question. In some previous cases, some operators choose not to renew their lease, or they actually terminate lease early. So, what are the standards for assessing the ability of the NGOs to operate these projects? And then, is the project financially viable so as to ensure the sustainability of the projects, and also employment of local residents? In enclosure 1, paragraph 6, it says that there will be guided tours run by elderly or local residents. I supporting and employing local residents. And because the two projects are remotely located, so you won't be able to hire staff from outside the district. So in future, I hope you will consider expanding the scope of employment of local residents. For example, repair, maintenance, cleaning, weed removal, and so on. You could first give priority to local residents, because there are workers among local residents that you can hire. Thank you for the questions. The project costs will be shouldered by the government, not the operators. And as I mentioned, it is important that the project is financially sustainable. Now we have studied the proposals put forward by the operators. They have put forward plans on how they can ensure the financial viability of the two projects. And the government will subsidize the loss in the first 2 years with a cap of $5 million. And in addition, the operators will have other sources of income. For example, the Homi Villa, there will be a restaurant there, so there will be a source of income. And then they can also organize fee-charging guided tours, or they could sell souvenirs. And then the operators could also raise funds on their own. After we assign the lease to the operators, as I said earlier, we will continue to monitor their performance, including their financial performance. So we'll watch the operations closely, and if there are any problems, then at the end of the 3 years, we may take back the site and retender it. On hiring of staff, the two operators will give priority to local residents or the disadvantaged when they need to hire people. Now, we want to make sure that there's confidence in running the two places. We can't just rely on the $5 million. That won't be proactive enough. And because we've seen some cases, projects are not sustainable after a while. And then we have to spend money to refurbish the facility, and then we need manpower also to retender the project. Now, there have been years of experience from the revitalization scheme. So I hope you'll be pragmatic when you assess the capability of operators. We don't want to see such problems. Now, of course, unless it's unforeseen circumstances like during COVID. Mr. Ban Chan. Thank you. Both projects are in Chinwan. And these are important monuments in Chinwan. Fong Yuen Study Hall is in Ma Wan, so there won't be too many visitors. That's why the previous operator had a hard time running the place. Now, this time you have selected a local group serving the area, and I think it's good because it is a major exercise to operate the monument. So I have no strong views on the selection of the operator. Homi Villa is a beautiful place. If there's going to be a restaurant there, I think it will be appealing, especially to tour groups and others. Now, we see no changes to Homi Villa after it became a part of the became the Airport Core Program Exhibition Center. So I'm glad to see that Homi Villa is going to be revitalized further, and that is a beautiful place. It overlooks the bridge, and it's also a good place for admiring the sunset view. But from the design, it seems that the building facing the sea will be an office, but then the restaurant will be on the roadside. Why is there such a layout? Why can't you reserve the building facing the sea for a restaurant so people will enjoy a spectacular sea view while they dine? And then learning experience to students. And there's explanation of what the learning experience includes. But I'd like to find out a bit more. Now, Fong Yuen Study Hall, you want to conduct STEM workshops. But what about the learning experience here? What kind of experience are we talking about? That's the first question. Secondly, many joggers go past this site. But then there are no toilet facilities along the route, and there's nowhere people can get drinking water. We've talked to the LCSD many times about providing toilets and drinking fountains. So for joggers from Sunjing to Chinwan, they've made this request. Can you entertain their request? Here. Commissioner, thank you. I understand the restaurant in Homi Villa will face the sea. As for activities to be conducted, now Homi Villa will become a learning center. It's about promotion of national history and Chinese culture. There will be courses for the public, and then there will be a restaurant too, and then there will be exhibitions and guided tours. So the public will learn about the history and culture of Homi Villa. And we can also promote Chinese culture to the next generation. Perhaps invite Dr. Yao Kwok Kong to supplement. Dr. Yao, thank you for the question. Now, the National History Education Center observes the 4E1 is experience, engagement, and so on. We emphasize that. And there will be two types of guided tours for students. Then the focus is on experience. So we will make use of popular technology. Maybe on an app, they can learn what Song Emperor Bing said, and if why so many people had to jump into the sea to kill themselves, what's the significance of that? Or what is the life meaning of that? So we will use such experience to help them learn more about the history. And then Shenzhen, we've been to Shenzhen for dozens of times. We talked to the Shenzhen residents, rural committee, and so on, and we have signed agreements with them on cooperation. And the Fu village, the villagers moved from the mainland here, so there's also a rich history there. So there will be such activities, and so students will come to realize that China and Hong Kong are actually the same family. So that means there will be a strong experience for students.
Will
there be facilities benefiting nearby joggers? There will be tables and benches outdoors so that visitors as well as joggers can appreciate the scenery there. Will there be drinking fountains? Well, as far as I understand, these will be feasible. Mr. Edward Lau. From the development perspectives, I support that we should revitalize these historic buildings. These buildings have their historical values. However, I do want to learn about the following. How much did you consider, or did you give any weight to the proposed financial plans when you approved the proposals? Understand that for the first 2 years of operation, if there are any losses or deficits, there will be a one-off grant of $5 million. Will the operators be able to make any profits? Say if they manage to make profits, we ask them to pay rent to the government or return parts of the profit to the government. You're assuming that the operators won't be able to be self-sustainable. Can you not assume that they will make any losses? Say if they manage to make money, will you ask them to return the profit to the government? We don't necessarily have to make losses in revitalization schemes. In other places, these kind of revitalization schemes have created a lot of benefits and values. So we have to change our mindset here. This is my first point. Secondly, for the National History Education Center, the operator will be responsible for the repair and maintenance works, but for other repair works, it will cost about $32,000 every year. Why aren't you asking the National History Education Center to be responsible for all the repair and maintenance cost? Well, if you tell me that you need a specific type of repair and maintenance works from historic buildings, I understand, but $32,000 is not a big sum of money. Perhaps you don't require special parts or components to repair and maintain the historic building. You can ask the operator to take up the cost. Perhaps administration cost is even higher than the maintenance cost. I hope the government can really change its mindset. Let's not assume that this kind of revitalization projects will create deficits. You should instead think about how these projects can create value and economic benefits. Commissioner, I agree with the member. There are chances that we can make profits through these revitalization projects. If the operator manages to make profit, the money will be plowed back to the project. The advisory committee, when assessing the proposal, we took into consideration the financial plans as well. We also consider other factors. For example, we looked at whether the proposal could show the historical value of the building. For example, will the operator work with other organizations to enhance social capital? What kind of benefits in general will the project bring to Hong Kong? We took into consideration all these factors. On the $30,000 some of maintenance cost, I'll ask Mr. Low to supplement. Mr. Low, please. When we entered into tenancy agreement with the organization, we asked the organization to take up the repair and maintenance cost. The government is responsible for leasing out the site, and we have staff within the government to look at the tenancy agreement. There are many professionals who help look at the building condition. It is not simply a renovation work. Well, operating organizations, they face a lot of challenges in operating these projects. As mentioned by the Commissioner, if there is any profit, the money will be plowed back to the operation. So this is one way for us to support the operator, that is to help look at the building condition. Well, just now you said that you gave weight to the financial plan, but there wasn't a fixed percentage in terms of how many scores you give to the financial plan. I believe the advisory committee assesses the proposal on a case-by-case basis and see whether the proposal will be able to meet your target. Yes, it gave an overall consideration. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. I in principle support these two projects. Let's look at the projects from a different perspective. First, I look at the ability of the operator to maintain the buildings. This includes the design as well as the inspection of buildings. I don't have much knowledge about the two operators. I understand that two companies have been set up by the organizations. You're confident about the ability to run the project because of their experiences. But in terms of inspecting the buildings as well as inspecting the project, these are not the strengths of the operators. You said that consultancy contracts have been signed and the operators will ask the contractors to help manage the project as well as the construction. The Architectural Services Department, from the construction to accepting the construction works, will it play an important role? How many consultants do you think the department will engage? What will be the role of the Architectural Services Department in the construction program? Secondly, I want to ask about the sustainability of the project. How will you ensure that the profit made by the operators will be used to sustain the operation? For Homi Villa, it's clear because there will be restaurants and there will be fee-charging guided tours. So these will be sources of revenue for the operators. As for the Fong Yuen Study Hall, it is a small site and it is in a remote area. Of course, the repair and maintenance costs will be relatively lower because of the small site. How confident are you that during the first 2 years of operation, we'll understand that there will be a one-off grant of $5 million. But after the first 2 years, you said you're confident that they will be able to break even. Will there be information to support that? Thirdly, Take Fong Yuen Study Hall as an example, $1.2 million for furniture and equipment, and $6 million for furniture and equipment for Homi Villa. How much money will be spent on innovative technology? $1 million may not be enough for AR technologies or multimedia facilities. Will the operator take money out of their own pocket to introduce all these technologies? Well, Mr. Edward Lau asked about the $30,000 for repair and maintenance. Understand this is just an estimate only. I understand that there won't be a lot of money spent on the structural wall for the first 2 years at least. Now on the ancillary block of the Fong Yuen Study Hall, it accounts for about 30% of the total project cost because it will cover the foundation. But I'm worried that the ancillary block won't be compatible with the existing parts. Also, you said that there will be an outdoor staircase. The site is so close to local residents. When activities are held, noises may be generated, and how will you deal with the noise problems? Well, please be brief, Commissioner. I thank the member for the questions. I'll try to address all the questions. The operator will engage a consultant to help monitor the construction progress as well as the quality of the construction works as well as construction site safety. The operator will also engage consultants on heritage conservation to ensure that the historic building will be preserved and that the building will display the historical value. The Architectural Services Department will be involved as a technical consultant to ensure the quality of the construction works as well. On financial viability, every year the operator will have to submit an audit report as well as financial statement to the government, and we will carefully look at the report. The proposal the operator submitted already cover all the estimated costs, including furniture and equipment, as well as technologies to be used. All these are covered in the proposal. The advisory committee looked at the proposals, and the advisory committee accepted that the proposal is a viable one. We will also closely monitor the performance of the operator. Every year they will have to submit a report to us, including one that shows the financial situation. In terms of the construction, I'll ask Mr. Low to supplement. Well, a member also asked about the sources of revenue for Fong Yuen Study Hall. I'll ask the representative from the Boys Brigade to address this question. I'll also ask Mr. Low to supplement. Yes, Mr. Low. Thank you. A member asked about how we're going to make use of the new ancillary block. There will be an outdoor staircase and platform. As mentioned, we'll make use of this space, and this will be integrated with the courtyard. We hope that future visitors will be able to make use of the staircase and platform. They will be able to sit there in the open space. The space below the platform will be made use of as well. There will be a new toilet, and there will be an E&M plant as well as a big water tank. As Dr. Low Wai Kwok said, space is limited. We'll make the best use of the space and include as many facilities as possible so that we can revitalize the site and bring vibrancy to the site. Well, the member asked about potential noise problems. The selected operator has already opened up the site for the public to visit. The selected operator has been in talks with the nearby operators, and the site will be closed after 6 p.m. With full communication with the nearby partners, we believe that all the operators in the surrounding area will be able to work peacefully with each other. Also, there are certain height difference between this site as well as the local residences. So we have taken this into consideration when we carry out the design to see how it will be made compatible with the surrounding environment.
Yeah.
Mr. Wong Chun Chin, Chairperson. Mr. Wong, about income. Who will take the question, please? Mr. Wong could give a reply on income. I understand there will be fee charging guided tours or the selling of souvenirs. They can even raise funds. So these are possible sources of income, and feasible ones too. If I may add further, the income comes mostly from two sources. One, the STEM workshop, that's training service, and two, guided tour of history and culture. Some of the tours are fee charging, so we could be talking about half day or whole day tours, and we may charge for that. So our main sources of income actually will mostly be STEM workshops. We believe our operating income will allow us to achieve a balanced budget after 2 years. So you have very few items that charge fees, and you expect the fees charged you be part of your income. So you may have to work harder on fundraising. And I'm quite sure in the first 2 years the $5 million won't be enough. Mr. Chi Kwok-keung, thank you. Both projects have much to do with education. When the projects are completed, that will offer learning experiences to students, so I support it. Fong, Yuen, you're still using STEM, but will you add an A there? That means STEAM education to move with the times. How do you ensure that your activities are constantly updated to keep moving with the times? Because there's always rapid development. And the site is far away from the Ma Wan Park, and the position is not the same, and there are no catering services. I wonder if there will be retail services. So it may be difficult to achieve a synergy effect. I'm worried that it won't survive after a few years. Yes, the operating body is rooted in Ma Wan, and it's expected after 2 years the project will be self-financing. I'm really worried if that will be the case. Can you include catering services, or can you say provide take-out meals? Because I may take my students there, so it's a long way to get there. And then if we just stay 2 or 3 hours, it's a really long trip. But if there are attractions nearby and we can stay on for meals, then it will be a lot more appealing. The second question on the National History Education Center. Now, it says here that there will be employment opportunities for local residents and the disadvantaged group. Well, that's good. Can you give us more details? how to ensure that this promise is delivered. Mr. Leung, Commissioner. How come it's STEM and not STEAM at the Fong Yuen Study Hall? Because this proposal was submitted in 2022. At that time, it was just the infant stage of STEAM. And so that's why in the proposal there's mention of STEM. But I'm sure the Employees Brigade will pay close attention to the development of STEAM. That's the A, that's for art, and then they may consider including that element. As for catering facilities, there is limited space in Fong Yuen, so there's not enough space for catering services. But on the ground floor, there's a drinking fountain. Visitors can use that. Homi Villa, employment of residents. This is explained clearly in the proposal, and as I said, we require them to submit an annual report to us. There will also be inspections by us. We'll make sure that their operation is in line with what they have proposed. Perhaps colleagues from the National History Education Center could say a bit more. Dr. Yao, thank you. On employment, Homi Villa is not a large site, but in our proposal, there will be more than 10 full-time and part-time staff members. Most of them will be indigenous residents. Well, actually, it's not that really remotely located. The area is served by buses, minibuses, and both red and green taxis could get there. Can I continue? Yes, please be brief. So that's why we have made this promise. In particular, there will be operating many guided tours, so we'll need a large number of docents, and so we'll train our docents, because there are students coming from different schools to visit the site. Well, we are talking about STEAM now, and if you still use STEM, seems that you're a bit behind the times. Can you change the name? I think that's just a technical detail, right? I don't think there's a problem with that, the Commissioner said. Next, Mr. Edward Leung. Thank you. Paragraph 6 of the paper says that the project will bring about 4 benefits. But I don't see how they are linked. First one is to stress the story of the Parsis, and so also this is about the Hong Kong, British Hong Kong administration era, and that's not a strong element. This is not about national history education. So how can you convince the public that this project will help to promote national history education? And the Parsis, if you mention Parsis about in exchanges between the West and the East, how come all of a sudden you talk about history of someone in Hong Kong and about his history of building his fortune and so on? So we have fiscal deficit. In that case, should we just devote our funds to the areas where there's about national history? For example, the Dongjiang column, their role in the war of resistance against Japanese aggression. So why don't you focus on that? Why do you want to focus on an individual who's established fortune here who built a fortune in Hong Kong? Now, if we talk about foreigners, getting established in Hong Kong, and in that case, how can we promote patriotism among students? Now, it seems that almost half of the indoor space is for a restaurant, and what has that to do with promoting national history? Thank you. Commissioner? Well, as I say, Hong Kong is a place where the East meets the West. we respect the history of Homi Villa. At the same time, we must also look ahead. So we want to make use of that site to teach our next generation about Chinese history. The Dongjiang column, of course, is an important element. In other places, we will try to promote the history about the Dongjiang column. Now, how is this site related to the national history education? Perhaps I could invite Dr. Yao to explain that. Dr. Yao, thank you. Thank you for the question. Now, the member mentioned Mr. Rattanji and Parsis. I must clarify that it's not because of Mr. Rattanji. That's why our group applied to take up this project. Now, we must respect the history of Homi Villa. Mr. Rattanji stayed there, so it's a fact, and we must respect that. But then the location of that Homi Villa is actually a good base for promoting patriotism. Now, Hong Kong is a place where the East meets the West, and at this very location, you can see how that actually is the case. Premier Li Qiang, in his annual report, he mentions deepening international cooperation. Hong Kong is a place where we are committed both Eastern and Western culture. Now, the Dongjiang column, of course, actually, Mr. Rattanji played a role in the war of resistance against Japanese aggression. He donated supplies to Chongqing, and he was arrested for that. So, it again shows that there's integration between the West and the East. And I'd like to talk about the restaurant. I think, well, ideal is one thing. We have to consider reality. We want catering service is important. Now, the restaurant will be selling mostly Chinese dishes, but then there will also be Parsi dishes because Mr. Rattanji was a Parsi. So, we need to ensure there's operating income is important too. Ms. Doreen Kong, thank you. I very much support the two projects. I'm all for conservation. I think we should do even better. I have some short questions. Fong Yuen Study Hall, Homi Villa. I know they will serve some functions, but apart from those functions, will they be open to the public, including overseas visitors? Because both are beautiful buildings, so can tourists easily access the two sites? And then if there are STEM workshops, will that send way of tourists who want to visit the place? Now, historic monuments. I think interpretation is very important with historic buildings. So these are two unique buildings. One is to be used for STEM workshops, the other for national history education. What about the interpretation of the buildings themselves? Will you, show or display the interpretation in both Chinese and English, of course, inside the buildings? Now, I'm all for catering facilities because visitors or the general public, when they visit, and if they're able to sit down and appreciate the view, because we don't want to go just after walking around a bit. If we're able to sit down, indoor or outdoor, and immerse in the building, that's good. So I support catering facilities. Fong Yuen Study Hall, there's a little bit of outdoor space. It's beautiful. Can you provide something like refreshment, for example, a coffee shop, or put a table or two there so people can just sit down for a cup of coffee, for instance? And Homi Villa, there are many slopes nearby. Will the repair cost be huge in future? Maintenance repair cost, that is. And I'd like to make a suggestion. if a Homi Villa could be rented out for people to do a Chinese wedding ceremony, it would be great. The rooftop could be for the ceremony, and then the restaurant could be a place for a banquet. So it's like Bethany. There's also a good venue here. If it's a good venue for Chinese wedding ceremony.
主席多謝
Commissioner, on the catering facilities in Fong Yuen, because of spatial constraint, it will be hard to introduce lots of catering facilities, but there will be restaurants nearby. So if possible, people can order takeaways from the nearby restaurants. On the opening hours of Fong Yuen Study Hall, it will be open 24/7. I mean, it will be open every day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and visitors will be able to visit the history corridor of Fong Yuen for free. They will also be able to enjoy the outdoor courtyard and the platform. Every day, there will be free guided tours at Fong Yuen, and there will be one open day every quarter, and the site will be open for public visit. For Homi Villa, the public will be able to visit it for free. It will be open from Tuesday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. It will be closed every Monday. For Saturday, Sunday, and public holidays, it will be opened from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Regarding the slopes near Homi Villa, they are not related to this project, and we won't be responsible for maintaining the slopes. Also, I think it is a great idea that we can make use of the site for Chinese-style wedding. We'll talk to the operator to see if this is feasible. Mr. Stanley. Thank you, Chairman. I support the revitalization projects because we can make good use of the space. I have 3 questions. The government has been emphasizing that it will adopt the no-frills principle for its projects. At Fong Yuen, there is already a staircase. Why is it necessary to build a new one? Would this be against the no-frills principle? Also, according to the government paper, there is no mention about whether there will be any impacts on the local residents in Ma Wan. Would you please tell us whether you have communicated with the local residents? Have you consulted them on the project? Now, on Youyou Villa. According to the paper, there will be a heritage interpretation site as well as a restaurant. So will you focus on heritage interpretation or providing catering services? Commissioner, I thank the member for the questions. On the staircase at Fong Yuen Study Hall, to make good use of the site, the outdoor staircase as well as the pump room will be reconfigured, and they will be rebuilt, and they will be part of the new ancillary block. The platform as well as the new staircase at the ancillary block will serve as a viewing deck for the visitors, and it will be lower than the original facility, and it will be further away from the historic building so that it can offer an open view for visitors. We will adopt a simple design for the ancillary block, and the design concept is totally different from that of the historic building, that is the main building, so that there is a clear delineation between the new block as well as the historic main building to show the aesthetics of architecture. The operator has been in contact with the local residents, including the village office as well as the rural committee. It has also been liaising with local residents. It will pay attention to any potential noise problems. The Fong Yuen Study Hall will close every day after 6 p.m. So there won't be any nuisances for the local residents. Also, as mentioned, there's a height difference between the Fong Yuen Study Hall as well as the nearby residences. So I believe future visitors will not be able to see the local residents from the site. As for the heritage interpretation area as well as the restaurants in Homi Villa, both are very different. Both are very important. We hope that members of the public as well as visitors will be able to learn about the history of the area, but at the same time there will be catering services. This is to provide a stable source of income for the operator. There is great scenery there. Visitors will be able to sit there and appreciate the historic building as well as the scenery. We've finished the first round of questions and answers. Now, Mr. Chu Kok-keung would like to speak for the second round. I would like to make good use of our time. I hope members present, if you have further questions about this item, please press the button now. Otherwise, after Mr. Chu Kok-keung speaks, I will put this item to vote. Mr. Chu, please. Thank you, Chairman. I have a follow-up question about Fong Yuen Study Hall. What STEAM elements will there be? To attract schools to visit the site, there should be very appealing elements. If you are working backwards, it will not be appealing for schools. Firstly, STEM is already outdated. Can you please convince me how you make use of STEAM to attract schools to visit the site? Commissioner, I thank the member for the question. The operator submitted the proposal a few years ago. Back then, it suggested STEM in the proposal. I agree that in recent years, art has been included in STEM and it has become STEAM. We will talk to the operator about this so that as it provides educational services, it would also review whether there is room to add the art element into STEM. We also will see whether it will introduce AI technologies, for example, as it provides educational services. Next, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok speaking for the second round. 3 minutes, please. I have a simple point to make. I hope the administration will look at my suggestion carefully. According to the map, there are slopes around Fong Yuen Study Hall. I'm not sure if they are government land. Perhaps as an expansion of Fong Yuen Study Hall, there could be a boardwalk. Please explain whether these facilities will be feasible. I will not ask for further discussion about this at the Finance Committee because I support this project very much. Commissioner, I thank the member for the questions. I will look into this, but there is a certain level of complexity. There are many slopes around the site. We'll have to look at the ownership. We'll provide more information afterwards. If members do not have further questions, I'll now put this item to vote. Will those in favor of PWSC Breaker 2025261 please raise their hands. Will those against please raise their hands? I think most of the members present are in favor of this proposal. This proposal is approved. On whether the Finance Committee should have a further discussion on this, now, in accordance with paragraph 41A of the Public Works Committee's procedures, I put the following question to vote. This subcommittee recommends further discussion by the Finance Committee on the proposal set out in PWSC 2025-261. Let me remind members, if this question is approved, that means this committee recommends the FC to have a further discussion on this paper. If this question is negative, it means that this committee does not recommend the FC to have a further discussion on this. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Will those against please raise their hands? I think that the majority of the members present are against this question. This means this question is negative. This subcommittee does not recommend the FC to have a further discussion on the paper PWSC 2025-261. We've concluded this item. I thank the administration for attending the meeting. We hope the relevant officials will provide the supplementary information that members asked for. Now we are moving to the next item. Let's welcome the government officials to join us first. Agenda item 2, 177BF. Construction of fire station-cum-ambulance depot with departmental quarters and facilities of the Fire Services Department at Anderson Road Quarry Site, Sai-Kung. Please refer to PWSC bracket 2025262. This paper is to recommend to the FC the upgrading of 177BF to Category A at an estimated cost of $1,152.8 million in money of the day prices. The government consulted the security panel on the 17th of March this year, and the panel recommended the submission of this item for this subcommittee's recommendation. The salient points covered at the meeting was emailed to members for reference on the 14th of April this year. Attending this item, we have a list of officials here, and I'm not going to read out their names. Welcome, government officials. I'll first read out the names of members who've pressed the request to speak button. There are Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Mr. Michael Luke, Mr. Frank Yan, Mr. Lam Chun-sing, Mr. Gison Yang, Mr. Andrew Lam, Mr. Tang Fei, and Mr. Holden Chow. 4 minutes for each member, including questions and answers. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, please. Thank you, Chairman. I speak in support of the construction of fire station-cum-ambulance depot with departmental quarters and facilities of the FSD at Anderson Road Quarry Site. The document covers the estimated project cost. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the administration for giving us the breakdown of the cost. This is very useful. I think this kind of analysis is very helpful. This is more helpful than the document which covers how this project compares to the previous projects and the unit cost. Just relying on the document is hard for us to decide whether we should approve the project, because we can't decide based on the document whether the project cost is high or low. according to the paper, it's hard to compare individual projects. This is understandable because different projects serve different functions. We usually look at the overall figures. This comparison of construction unit cost with reference projects, which has been tabled on to members, is very clear. I have two questions. When we make comparisons of different projects, we have to look at the context and when the projects are carried out. If there is a shortage in terms of manpower in the construction sector, the returned tender price must be very high. For this particular project, I believe you prepared for it starting from about 6 months ago or a year ago. And it was a time when there was a drop in number of construction projects in Hong Kong. So I believe the tenders were more aggressive, and you should be able to get a reasonable and low price. Is it the case for the returned tender price? Also, according to this table, well, also according to government's paper, compared to the reprovisioning of Kong Wan Fire Station, this particular project is more special. That's why from this table we can see that there is a threefold difference in the construction unit costs. For this Anderson Road project, there will be facilities for training. And for Kong Wan Fire Station, it was also a 2-story project. Just by looking at the plans, I don't see any major differences between the two projects. And I don't understand why there is a threefold difference in terms of the construction unit cost. Would the administration tell us how this project is more special?
Now, the return tender price and so on, what elements are reflected, and for divisional training facilities, I can ask the FSD to first explain the difference between the facilities here and those in the Kong Wan Fire Station. And then Mr. Wong will tell you about the cost. Mr. Wong first. Mr. Wong Kar-wing. Thank you. In June, last year we invited tender. The tenders were received in September. There was a good response. When we invited tenders, we couldn't actually go back to prices a year ago. But on the tenders received, we can see that the unit cost was lower. I can explain that in the breakdown later if members ask about that. Second question, the divisional training facilities in Anderson Road compared to those in Kong Wan Fire Station. Well, for the Anderson Road side, the facilities are more complicated. There will be 30-meter shaft. This is not available at the Kong Wan Fire Station. There is only one-story, single-story facilities, or some simple partitioning. So that's why the cost is higher for the Anderson Road project. Fire Service Department. Now we take very seriously the training of frontline officers, in particular rescue operations and strategy. So we'll have regard to the unique features of each district in formulating the training plans. Now, Kowloon District, there is a high residential density, and there are subdivided units, industrial units, partitioned units, and even mini stores. So we want to include all such layouts in our training. and then different divisions could join together in the training for synergy, and then we could also do strategy training, and then the shaft could help to train fire service officers on their technique in moving up and down, and then we also do for shaft operations, so this would be good training for us as well. And then if firemen are trapped, and we train other officers how to respond. So, well, I think what you said is useful, because we may have a similar fire service station facility. So can you provide that in writing? It would be good reference. Thank you. We'll do that. Mr. Michael Look. First question. Plot ratio. I understand the department is asked to increase the plot ratio. Have you tried to demand an even higher plot ratio? Because there is a shortage of 40% of G-grade departmental quarter units. You are just building 113 units. You know, it's hard to find a site for building DQ, so why don't you do more, provide more units here? What's the consideration? Is it because the town planning board won't approve it? Or is there objection from the district council? What's the reason? Because if you increase the plot ratio, then you could lower the average the cost per square foot or square meter. Now on construction cost, there are many building facility services, and they account for a good portion of the cost. And then for the tabled today, there are two items that will be deducted, and for the special facilities, it's a grey water recycling system, fast charges and medium charges. The grey water discharge system, why is it necessary? What is it for? What is the cost involved? And if the charges for small vehicles, we see many electric vehicles, but what about large appliances like fire appliances? When will we see electric fire appliances? Or do you plan to have electric fire appliances soon? That's why you are installing the chargers now? Or are you just installing chargers without any plans for procuring electric fire appliances? On plot ratio and the cost of facilities, Mr. Wong, Assistant Director of Fire Services, will answer that. And then as for fire appliances, for the moment, that we don't have any electric fire appliances, but the FSD is actively exploring that. Maybe there could be heavy vehicles that are suitable, and then we can use them. Thank you. Mr. Wong, please. Thank you. The plot ratio. We have already gone through the town planning board. Initially, the plot ratio was 3.7, and there's a height restriction of 38 meters. And there's a need for initially with such planning parameters, but then we applied to the town planning board. We tried to demand the maximum plot ratio, so it's increased from 3.7 to 4.7. So it's a 30% increase, and then the height restriction has increased from to 57.95 meters. That's a 50% increase. So that's why we're able to build 113 DQ units. We've considered the development at Anderson Road, the ventilation and everything, so we have already secured the maximum plot ratio allowed. Grey water. People ask what grey water is. In the entire development of Anderson Road, the Water Service Department has a facility to recycle grey water. So for all government buildings, like the wash basins, bathtubs, or kitchen basins, they will all be discharged to large water tank, and then water will be treated, and then the water will be used for toilet flushing in the district. So that's the grey water discharge system. Do you have a breakdown of the cost for the grey water discharge system and charges? Grey water discharge system is hard to give a breakdown. Charges. For this project, we have 55 parking bays for private vehicles. And then we will provide 7 kilowatt chargers. We'll also include the charger space. And then there are 3 medium-sized vehicles, 100 kilowatts chargers as fast charger. So we have 3 1,000 kilowatt chargers, 100 kilowatts chargers, that's fast charger. And then for large vehicles, we will install chargers. So in future, if we have electric vehicles, then we have 5 150 kilowatt chargers. Of course, that will cost more. The unit cost, members may think is expensive, but that's the current market price. Say medium charger, that is a 7 kilowatt charger, is about $30,000, including the infrastructure. And then the fast chargers, 100 or 150 kilowatt, the cost is $550,000. But there we only have 8 such chargers, but it's worth including these chargers because in future there will be need to charge heavy vehicles, but then there are a few of these fast chargers. Mr. Frankie Ann, thank you. I have 2 questions. 1. Will some of the facilities be open to the public? For example, learning areas or the divisional training facilities, can they be opened up to the public for visits? If so, what will be the arrangement? Second question, parking bays. Now there will be 55 private vehicle parking bays. What's the ratio between the office and the DQ units? In particular for the office, I'm sure there will be many visitors' vehicles in future. So how do you handle that? Because this place is rather remote. It's located in Sai Kung, but then the roads network is actually the East Kowloon Road network. So I'm a bit worried about accessibility. Thank you. Well, this is divisional fire service station. It's for operational purpose, so there won't be opening of the facilities to the public. But of course, if schools want to visit the facilities, we will entertain that. We often do that. And then for the 55 parking spaces, 50 will be for other for division. 5 will be for divisional units, and then 45 will be for residents, and another 5 will be visitors parking. Mr. Wong could answer the other questions now. Mr. Wong, please. Thank you. I think the Undersecretary has answered all the questions. I don't have anything to add. The layout of the building. Now there are on the lower level there are divisional training facilities. Others are offices. So definitely there will be visitors. But just now I don't hear there will be visitors car parks. There's only visitors car parks for the DQs. What if people come here for meetings or training or whatever? Where do they park their private cars? Undersecretary. Now the Railway Development Division, the Fire Safety and Compliance Division, and the Buildings Improvement Division will all be proficient here, and they don't actually need to have contact with the public. These are just offices. Next time, Mr. Lam Chen Sing. For the old Fire service stations, they're usually 3 stories. That's the case in commercial areas. And then, but then nearby those tall buildings, so it seems to be a waste of space. But then you say if you've used up the plot ratio, so there's nothing we can do. But then this building is not quite the same as the others. And there will be the fire service station, ambulance depot, training facilities, as well as DQs. So it's more or less like a joint user complex. That is, you have a swimming pool, cooked food stores, markets, and libraries in the same place. So it's now in the past, fire service stations and ambulance depots are usually standalone facilities, but this time you have integrated other uses. So with this arrangement, will it help to save costs? Or will it facilitate your operations? If that's the case, in other new districts such as Northern Metropolis, will you also adopt the same model? That's the first question. Second one. Now there's mention of the training facilities, maze-like scenarios or shafts for training purpose and so on. Now, recent fire incidents like Lucky House, that is large tenement buildings, or the fire at a mini warehouse, storage warehouse a few years ago. So you mentioned that already, but with the training facilities here, can you help to provide training in those scenarios? Maybe we need to consider international standards or mainland standards. I understand the fire service department mounts some joint drill operations with the Greater Bay Area. So do we share the same standards? And what about the cost of the training facilities for this purpose? Third question, parking spaces. Mr. Frankie An said there are not enough visitors car park spaces. Maybe there are not enough parking spaces for colleagues even. Now, fire services department officers have to report to duty even in inclement weather when there's suspension of public transport service. So some colleagues may drive and then pick up other colleagues nearby to get to work. So there aren't sufficient parking spaces for your staff, it seems. Can you increase the spaces? Thank you.
Mr. Church, please. On whether we are building a joint user complex. Well, land is the most expensive and hard to find in Hong Kong. They're very valuable, so we adopt the single-site multiple use principle. We're building the fire station. We take into consideration the demographic structure in Kowloon East, and we look at the demand for services. So we are proposing an ambulance depot, and the depot as well as the fire station will create synergy. We're also going to use some of the space for training facilities. We're reprovisioning some of the offices which are currently situated in commercial buildings. We are going to also alleviate the shortage of departmental quarter units through this project. And in future projects, we'll continue to adopt the single-site multiple-use approach. On training, I'll ask Mr. Wong to supplement. Assistant Director, please. The Fire Services Department has all along been reviewing the time to attend to fire calls to decide how much manpower we need. We promulgated a development blueprint recently, and we have a lot of platforms, including dashboard platforms, to analyze the uniqueness of each fire incident as we come up with our training courses and programs. Our training program will cover different strategies, including firefighting and rescue operation and so on. The member asked whether we reviewed the fire after a major fire in Kowloon. We review each fire incident in terms of how we can do better in terms of evacuation and how we can do better in firefighting on each floor. This can help us assimilate different layout in subdivided units, industrial buildings, and even mini storages so that we can apply our strategies. In terms of our training on rescue, we usually deploy 4 fire appliances as well as 1 ambulance for number 1 fire. So one of our training goals is to make sure that there is coordination between different types of staff. 5 more members are waiting to speak. We're supposed to end this meeting at 10:30 a.m. I don't think we have enough time to vote on this item. So I'll invite Mr. Kitson Young to put his questions. Afterwards, I will end this meeting, and next time we will carry on with this item. Mr. Kitson Young, I support this fire station project at Anderson Road because I think it is necessary. If you know the development of near Anderson Road, we have a few public housing estates and some private residential developments are underway. We're relying on Shunli as well as Polam fire stations now. Anderson Road is at the top of the district, so if there is a fire, traffic congestion might be an issue. It would be very helpful if there is a fire station at the Anderson Road site, so I support this project. I'd like to learn about the details of the projects. I'd like to follow up on charges. It costs less than $500,000 to build chargers. It takes probably tens of thousands of dollars only. You have all the electricity cables laid already, so if you are to build new chargers, it shouldn't be so expensive. So please think about whether it really cost $500,000 for the chargers. Also, if the chargers are so expensive, will you consider alternative options? Some charger companies can install chargers for you for free. They only charge you for the electricity. Also, from the environmental perspectives, the chargers are mostly for vehicles. We know that in future there will be more hydrogen-powered vehicles, including buses. I believe there will be hydrogen-powered facilities for ambulances as well. We'll talk to the EPD about this if we are going to go greener. Will you head towards this direction as you build future fire stations? Will you consider having chargers for hydrogen-powered vehicles? Will you consider introducing chargers for hydrogen-powered vehicles or even have hydrogen-powered ambulances? Mr. Churk. On the cost of the charging facilities, I'll invite Mr. Wong to supplement. The market research is done by the Fire Services Department. We looked at operational vehicles, fire appliances used by different places. I don't think there have been any hydrogen-powered fire appliances. They're mostly electric vehicles. Mr. Wong, please. From the Architectural Services Department. We talked about two figures, one for fast chargers, they cost $500,000, the other for medium chargers. The chargers themselves cost $350,000. Cable laying is about $200,000. When we accept tenders, we will look for the cheapest chargers. Please be rest assured. We're now just comparing the prices provided by the three major contractors. For among the $30,000, cable laying about $10,000 and the installation about $10,000. We'll review the price, and if the returned tender price is, say, $8,000 or $10,000, we will adopt the lower price. I'm going to suspend the discussion here. We will carry on with this item in the next meeting. The funding proposal approved will be submitted in May or after May this year. The next meeting will be held on the 7th of May from 8:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. Please be punctual. Thank you all again for attending today's meeting. Meeting adjourned.